welcome to a reading vlog. I only just finished my previous reading vlog, so I'll link that for you because I feel like some things are going to be a little bit crossover. So I'm reading Assassin's Quest, which is the third book in the Farseer trilogy, and I've got 350 pages left of this, and I'm hoping to read it in time to put in my April wrap-up, which I'll film just before April ends. So that gives me like 4 days maybe to read this. And then audiobook wise, I finally started Sunrise on the Reaping and I'm 30% into that one. And I don't know why I borrowed this when I wasn't in the mood for it, because it's a Libby hold. Like, it's obviously not going to be a happy book that comes with the territory of the Hunger Games. And I'm reading about Haymitch and I'm seeing the characters around him, and in my mind I'm like, why are you forming a connection to these, Beck? Like, they're going to probably die, it's not going to end well. And yet here I am. So it's probably going to make me very emotional. So that is happening. This is happening. And then I've also got some library books that came in on hold. I do have an appointment, so I'm going to that first. I'll get my library books and then I'll get some groceries and then I'll come home. Thankfully this week I also have off work, so I'm on leave just after Easter, and Dave is back from his work trip as well, but the poor thing is sick. So I'm still kind of doing stuff by myself to a certain extent. So I wanted to get the nursery sorted for the baby this week because we both had it off, but he needs to rest. So I'm going to do as much as I can by myself, and then I'll leave all of the furniture moving and assembly to him. So I've still got a mission in mind and I can audiobook while I do that. So that is the goal this week, I guess. Read as much of this as I can, finish Sunrise on the Reaping, and do as much cleaning out of the nursery as possible. I've also got a new release, so Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life, coming out on the 22nd, and that's actually today, but I'm still going to be listening to Sunrise on the Reaping. Probably got like 4 hours of that audiobook left, so I'll finish it in the next few days, I think, and then I can go straight into Emily Henry's new release. So massive reading plans, just a couple of days, and a lot of cleaning to do as well, so wish me luck. Success. Now I want to sit, but we will go for a walk because someone is feeling better enough to walk. Yeah! Why hello, it is now the next day in the afternoon, and thank you cockatoos. I did a whole bunch of cleaning out of the nursery like I thought I would, which I'm very proud of, but full disclosure, I definitely spiraled because I was like, why would my parents' generation keep so much stuff? I've got scribbles of when I was a child, like, it doesn't need to be kept. So in between all of those things are photos. So I need to go through every slip of paper to clean out that room because I don't want to accidentally recycle a photo that I want to keep. So it is a whole journey, but the good thing that came out of it is that I've cleaned out a bunch of boxes now. I did a little bit more earlier this afternoon, and we're almost at a point where the boxes are cleaned out, and once the boxes are done, then we can get the furniture moved around. So I'm looking forward to the progress in that room. It is happening, even though it feels like it's slow. And while I was doing it, I also listened to more of the Sunrise on the Reaping book, and I'm now 52% in. And I wanted to report that even though I'm liking it, and I like Haymitch's voice and narration, I like the exposition of the characters, I like the underlying politics of, obviously the Hunger Games is a horrible thing, whereas these characters are kind of trying to plot against the careers who go into the Hunger Games, and it's like they're built for winning the Hunger Games. So everyone's kind of like banding together against the careers, and I really like that dichotomy, and I like what Haymitch is starting to build. But at the same time, I just feel like I could care more, and it hasn't quite happened for me yet. In terms of the pace, everything is well written and I don't feel like I'm being left behind. I feel like there is great world building. There's already stuff set up from, you know, obviously the Hunger Games trilogy itself. So I'm liking seeing those old characters come in to this story as well, obviously when they're younger, but it's still only sitting at 3.5 stars for me. Some parts have been emotional to read about and I've gone, ooh, that hurts, but it hasn't hurt in a way that makes me cry or is like a 4-star read or above, if you know what I mean. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the second half does, because I feel like the first part was not preamble and not setup. Maybe it kind of is in terms of establishing the politics and the alliances and the characters before they then get dumped into the actual arena. So I'm looking forward to the arena part because everything is going to go wild then, and I really want to know what happens. Realistically, I don't know if I'm going to do more on the nursery today because I'm really tired and I really want to nap, but we're also going out to Bunnings because some of our plants really need saving, so we're going to go and get some stuff and I'll bring you along for that. So save the plants is the mission today. Read a little bit if I can is also the mission. If I don't nap today, I can nap tomorrow. Either way, I'll get something in somewhere because it's so nice having a couple of days off for annual leave. I've missed having a day off when it's nice and sunny outside. Time to get a plant pot. We got the plant food. Now this is why we got the giant pot, because our blueberry plant has been burnt by the sun. It needs some more food and we thought we would get a new pot to make it happier. I'm hoping that it saves it, honestly. Transplant is in progress. We've got a lot of dirt to spare. And there you have it. Now that we just hope that she thrives. We also gave some food to our other plants. So this is our lemonade tree, which is like a sweeter lemon. And that's our fig tree as well. And I put ant sand in there because ants have been appearing again and we want them to go away. It's evening and I'm reading and oh my god, this book is so good. Just reading about Fitz, and you do have to like Fitz to enjoy this series, but it's such a slow burn and oh god, the character payoffs are so good. They're just built so individually, and there's a group of them right now on a collective quest, and it has taken a while to get to this point because it involved a lot of stops and starts with Fitz's development, which honestly I'm eating up anyway. He's with Night Eyes, who is a wolf, and his conversations with Night Eyes and the growth of Night Eyes with Fitz as well. There was a moment when they recognised that Fitz wasn't a boy anymore and Night Eyes wasn't a cub anymore, and the shift was such a subtle shift, but the descriptions was just beautiful and it gave me goosebumps. And then there was some description here about some of the other side characters and oh my god, I just love it so much. I love the interactions, I love the anguish, which seems so weird to say, but with a story this detailed, it takes so much time to get to where it needs to, but sometimes I would view that as a negative in a book, but in this book it is so much a positive and I'm just eating up every second. Robin Hobb is truly a master storyteller and her characters are just second to none. I love them so much. Even though some of them really annoy me, I just love them. And that is a really hard thing to do. This book is so good. I love too that, like I said, even though the characters that annoy me, I still kind of enjoy reading about. Like there is a minstrel in here at the moment, which is like a traveling and performing musician. And I just find her so frustrating because she's the kind of character or person that wants to be around Fitz because eventually she wants to tell a story someday and get like the fame and accolades from that. And she doesn't really care for Fitz, she's not his friend or anything. And so she just wants to be around him to get the clout of her future song. So you would look at someone like that and not have any patience or tolerance for them. And she just does stuff that then reflects back on Fitz, and it just completely undermines him and his feelings and his agency and his emotions. And I just find her so intolerable. But now she's on this like traveling quest, this very small group. And there was a moment where Fitz recognized that he's closing himself off from all the magic because he's got to kind of keep his mind safe because he's being hunted. And he realizes and observes how closed he's been to everyone around him, and then he individually observes everyone who's with him and how they're all connected. And he notices Starling and how she's very isolated emotionally from everyone, partly by her own choice because she didn't want to be friends with Fitz in any way, but
just the way that one of the other characters in that procession, in that group, reached out to her and was very tentative in talking about her instrument, because she plays the harp, and how this character could help potentially carve it so it better shaped her hand because she had an injury. And then she was like reciprocal of what this character was offering. It also showed that even though I don't like her, she's got this real vulnerability to her. And I think Robin Hobb really writes that kind of duality of character really well. You can really see that nuance, even in a side character that has only been, I think, introduced in this book off and on. She manages to do it so well, and I think that's why I love her writing style so much, because she's so aware of everything. There are so many layers, and even though Fitz is somewhat unreliable because he's very much living in his own head and really just hoping for his own ideals, an own ideal world. He doesn't want to be an assassin, he doesn't want to have this duty, but he does. He just wants to go and live with the love of his life and be away from the crown and just live his life as he can. It just hurts me so much, but in such a good way. I love this book so much. So I haven't done any reading today. I did go to a plant nursery, which was fun. Oh my god, there's so much banana bread. Oh, yum. Sleepy ducks. And then we went out for lunch, me and Dave, as a date. And then we came back with a mission in mind, and that was to clear a bunch more of this room. And it looks much better than it did before, so we are great steps closer. That whole shelf has been cleared. The bed I want to hopefully sell on Marketplace. I don't know how that's going to go. This is going in our shed because it's good for working out when it's really hot weather. This is going to my parents, and then this stuff is still all the stuff that my mum hoarded. So I'm still going through boxes and boxes of stuff, but it's almost done. What we've got here is a donation pile, a recycling pile, and a trash pile. So we are well on our way, and I'm proud of our progress.
Hello again. I've been a bit slack at updating this vlog because it's been a couple of days, but I've only been slack because I was really tired. We spent a day working on the garden, setting up the nursery, and just doing a lot of cleaning. So I figured I would just rest, read a bit more, and then come and update you, because I'm currently reading two things. I've now excitedly got 100 pages left of this book, and I've only got a few days left of April, and I've just filmed my April wrap up, and it didn't quite make it into being finished for that wrap up, but I filmed a few days early for April, so I'm fully anticipating that I'm going to finish this shortly, because oh my god, when I was raving about it in an earlier clip and just saying how amazing it was, I sing its praises still, because I am just completely enamored. The relationships in this story are absolutely incredible. There is so much nuance to these characters and to the magic and to the world, and my heart is so full, and I'm also so afraid, because I do remember little bits and pieces of the ending of this, and I know Robin Hobb is going to hurt me, but I'm going to continue reading because she hurts me so good, and I love these characters so much. Additionally, I've got an hour left of Sunrise on the Reaping, and even though I expected that book to hurt me, it's actually not really hurting me as much, and so I feel like I've sped through it, and now I'm just kind of at the end and going, I can't really be bothered. It's like a 3-star read, so it's a decent book, and I really appreciate the development, the world building, Hamish as a character and his observations and his intense need for survival and to try and help who he can, because he's in obviously a terrible situation and he's doing the best that he can in it. But I also just don't feel as emotionally invested in this book, like nearly as emotionally invested as in the Hunger Games trilogy I was. So it's just a little bit disappointing in that sense. I was expecting to be completely and utterly eviscerated by this book, so my expectations are probably a bit too high. But yeah, I've only got an hour left, so I anticipate that I'll read that hour and I'll finish this in the next couple of days, so those will very much be done and dusted by the time April ends. Additionally, I remember saying at the beginning of this vlog, and I feel bad because I didn't follow through until now, but I said that I was going to go to the library, and I ended up forgetting to go to the library. So you can blame pregnancy on that, because sometimes I say and intend to do things, like very genuinely intend to do things, and then it's like, did I have a thought? No. And so I genuinely forgot to go to the library, and I just went and got groceries instead and came home. And it wasn't until the next day where I was like, oh no, I forgot to get my books. So I went to the library and I got some books, finally. And this is the first 3 volumes in the Ragnar Crimson series, and I know this follows dragons and dragon hunters, and I talk about this in my May to be read video. So if you want to know more about the synopsis of the series, go and look there, because I'm just excited to get stuck into these, and the art style looks absolutely fantastic, so I'm keen to read beautiful manga about dragons, and I'm going to start this as soon as I finish those 2 books that I'm currently reading, because after reading Robin Hobb, who is like 850 pages of a chunky book, I'm looking forward to some manga because I want my reading motivation to kick up again. What I mean about reading motivation is, I think I've said it before, when I finish a book, I feel more motivated to read the next one. It's kind of like a kick-on effect. So if I can finish 3 manga volumes, I'm gonna feel hella motivated to continue reading any other thing. Not only did I go and get books from my library, I also got a birthday package because in May it is my birthday. So thank you, Marie, so much. Oh, it's all wrapped individually. What? Look. Ugh. This is the book, but it looks like, oh, you can't even really see it, but the paper looks broken. So I'm just gonna open that. Ooh. Ooh. I told Marie that she could go off my wish list. Whatever she generally picks is something that I'm likely to enjoy. A lot of my recent favorites have been books that she's already read and been like, you finally got on the bandwagon, welcome to the club of loving these books. So I am keen to read this one. It says, in an empire fueled by necromancy, dead sorcerers are the lifeblood. I'm already keen. Their corpses are wrapped in chains and drained of magic to feed the unquenchable hunger for imperial conquest. Born with magic, Arian has become resigned to her dark fate, but when the voice of a long-dead sorcerer begins to speak inside her head, she listens. There may be another future for her if she's willing to fight for it. Miles away beneath a volcano, a 7-eyed dragon also wears the Empire's chains. Before the Imperial fist closed around their lands, it was the people's sacred guardian. Loran, a widowed swordsman, is the first to kneel before the dragon in decades. She comes with a desperate plea and will leave with a sword of dragon fang in hand and a great purpose before her. Necromancy, dragons, I'm sold. This is so cool already. I am so keen to read this. Oh, yum. I love Animal Crossing, if you didn't know that about me. And this is KK Slider, one of the characters from Animal Crossing. How good. Oh, what a lovely package. Thank you so much, Marie. This is awesome. Oh, I'm so excited. I might end up messing with my May TBR just so I can fit this in because it sounds really cool. But that's my update for now, I guess. I'll talk to you very shortly. Do you want to know something completely ironic? The fact that I filmed my April wrap-up and then in the same day, that very evening, I then read the last 100 pages of Assassin's Quest. So I've now finished Robin Hobb and I've still got a few days left of April. That throws a bit of a spanner, not a spanner, but a question mark into my reading plans, and I'm very proud that I finished it. Obviously I gave it 5 stars. I feel a great sense of loss, of mourning, of satisfaction. I'm just all a mess emotionally, or at least I was from finishing that book. I finished it last night, so I've had a bit of time to recuperate and recover. And that's made me think about what I want to read next, because I'm in an awkward phase. So I've got like 2.5 days and then May begins, right? But I don't want to start a manga, and I've got Ragnar Crimson to start, so I'm looking forward to that dragon manga. But I don't want to finish anything when it's not technically May, so that when I do my May wrap up, I don't know, it just feels disingenuous to finish a book not in May and then be like, here's my May wrap up. So I 100% acknowledge that it's a weird brain me thing. But that said, I think that I'm going to start something else on my May TBR, but it won't be as immediately finishable as a manga volume. I'm finally tackling, that is right, the first binding. And I figured, because this is such a big, like it's literally my head size, because it's such a big book, then I will make a bit of headway before May for the month actually starts, and I'll see what I can read in the next couple of days. So that will be my little bit of a head start boost, because initially I'd planned to continue reading Assassin's Quest, and that was the first week and a half of May for me. And now that slot has opened up, so I can pop this into that slot instead.
and then hopefully I'll read it faster, assuming I like it, because it's a fantasy book that I basically know nothing about. So in my next update, I'm hoping that I've read enough to actually tell you what this is about, or what it seems to be about, because I don't know, and I'm sure you're curious too.
Alright, so it's been a few days, which means I read, surprisingly, a little bit more of this. I'm now 60 pages into it, which is a whopping 7%. This book is huge. But I'll start with my first impressions, which were around like 25-ish pages, and that was this character hasn't been named yet, so already I'm interested in the why and the what of this story. I want to know more about him. He's got a magical cloak, he seems to know the bindings, and apparently there are 10 of them, and he can do magic, but you don't know what his backstory is, you don't know where he's going or why he's there, and he tells this story to the tavern that he's in to earn his keep for the night. And I thought this story would just be like a preamble or a premise, and it might skip past it and then get into our actual main character, who we're calling storyteller for now, but he went into the whole story that he told the tavern, and it demonstrated his ability for magic. And the magic is mostly elemental so far, and he's telling this story, but it seems to be like a recounting of how this world was almost created, because he's talking about Solace, who is the god of the sun, and then the Prince of Sunlight, who is, I'm gonna butcher this name, Antoine, who was blessed by Solace and had to fight against the Lord of Darkness, whose name is Umbris or Umbris. And in that fight, I think his wife, so Antoine's wife, died, and her name is Etania, and that is what the land is named for. So we're getting like an origin story of this world, but not with enough answers, so I'm only getting more questions. And the way this is written is a little bit formal and a little bit drawn out, and after reading and finishing and loving Robin Hobb, I'm looking at this style of book versus her style of book, and her, I just get a richness of character and moment and world, whereas in this it feels much more drawn out and a bit more surface and formal rather than deep and character focused. So I'm having a little bit of trouble getting into it, but I honestly think that's just down to the different styles of writing, and I'm going to give this a couple hundred pages and then see if I'm enamored by the plot enough to continue. At a certain point in this story, there was also a mysterious songstress, and she also performed for the tavern, and then afterwards her and Storyteller, our protagonist, got to talking, but again it was more of that formalized talking where they almost like batted around what they wanted to say, and I can get behind that to a certain extent, but not for like 60 pages. It was like formal flirting and they were being deliberately coy, but then at a certain point she recognizes some more recent stories and actually figures out what the name of our main character is and is linked to these stories, and then he says that he will tell her his story after she asks him. So from that point on, I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm hoping that they go into the stories where he's like this man of legend, but he seems quite young, so I'm like, how did this all come about? Like, why is he here? How did he get here? Why are all these stories a thing? Why did he get particularly emotional at the naming of one of the legends and not the others? I'm just so confused, but that is like the standard feeling going into any new fantasy book. I've got so many questions, so I'm hoping it starts to answer the why of them, or at least a bit of the why soon. I want to know about this guy, how he knew magic, and why the heck he's here. Now for the little sticky tabbies, because sometimes I have issue with male authors writing fantasy, especially female characters, and like, this isn't technically wrong, but it also just piqued my awareness of how this author is writing this female character so far. And it says, she gave me a mysterious wink. She had a point. Most women always do, but it can be a terrible danger to let them know you know that. It just seemed a little bit silly to include. And then later on, there was something that happened and she's gone, did you find it pleasing? A loaded question, one that would trap many a man, but I walked into it nonetheless with the only thing one should carry, the truth. Yes. But you wouldn't stare. It wasn't a question. I returned to her earlier comment, feeling it was best to address it and put the subject to rest. This is our main character. I'm not most men. And for that you'll either find me wildly entertaining or odd and irritating. That's been my experience with women, at least. Honestly, the I'm not most men is giving, oh, I'm not like other girls, which is very, like, it's tiring. I don't care. I just want this guy to do what he needs to do. Why is this woman here except to facilitate him telling us his story? Couldn't he do that just by reflecting, by comparing his journey of where he is now and what he's done to get there? Is there flashbacks? Like, surely, I don't know. I'm already having issue with it clearly, and I'm only 60 pages in. I wouldn't even call them necessarily issues. I'm just a little bit like not invested. So I want to give it a little bit of time and read more. But again, it's such a long book and I'm already a little bit like, I'm not feeling it. So I think I'm going to temporarily just put it to the side and revisit it during May, because it's the 1st of May today, so I can start my actual May TBR. So I've made 60 pages of progress on this already, which I'm happy with. And then the other one that I wanted to read, which is significantly shorter than an 800-page behemoth, is Ragnar Crimson, which is a dragon fantasy manga that I have been keen to read for a while. And honestly, if this proves not entertaining, I'm going to be very upset. It says that in this action-packed dark fantasy, humanity lives under the threat of annihilation by immensely powerful dragons. The dragon hunter Ragnar embarks on a revenge-fueled quest to eliminate the threat once and for all. And I think he's a junior dragon hunter, so he's not really good at what he does yet, but I'm assuming we see that growth. He gets paired with a mentor who is incredibly fantastic at her job. So I'm looking forward to seeing that mentor and learning dynamic and what they do and what their quest is and what his whole vibe is about dragons, because obviously he wants to wipe them out for good, and like, what is his backstory? Why is he so angry? So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I will let you know when I've read more of this. I also do have an update for Emily Henry's new book that I've started listening to, but because I've talked about this one for so long right now, I might just save that for a bit later and let you know how I feel about that one later as well. So I'll read this and then check in with you about this one and Emily Henry's one in my next update. And now I've come in to wrap up the end of this vlog, so I wanted to talk about two things before I close this off. The first one is that I'm reading the audiobook for Emily Henry's new book, so Great Big Beautiful Life, and this one follows Alice and Hayden, and both of them are separate independent journalists, and they have found this figure that used to be super famous and scandalous in Hollywood. She's now in her 80s and she wants to write about her life, but she wants an independent journalist to do it. And so she's going to sit down with somebody to share her whole life story. But when Alice gets there thinking that she's found the story of a lifetime, it turns out that Hayden also appears thinking the same thing, and it's almost like they have been split. So both of them sign NDAs and they've got a total of a month to earn her trust before they are properly formally given the right to interview her. So of course these two characters are very close proximity on this very small island, kind of removed because this figure didn't want people knowing where she was. So now they've got basically nobody in common and they only really know each other on this very small island. So that is like a forced proximity of a kind, and they're getting to know each other. There is an obvious attraction there, and I think I like Alice as a protagonist in Emily Henry's books more so than I've liked some of her other protagonists, but there is still a bit to be desired in this book for me. So it's probably sitting at about a 3.5 stars, and that might drop. I hope it doesn't, but it initially was a 4 stars, and then based on how our main character conducts herself, it's starting to drop a little bit, just in the sense that I like it when not only a character communicates, but when they are genuine. And this character had an interaction with Hayden, so they had their first kiss and everything, but Alice was also still currently kind of seeing somebody, and to be fair, he's a tool, but the fact that she was still kind of in like, not a relationship, definitely not a relationship, but a situationship, that she's very much thinking of breaking off, like very strongly going to break off with him, hadn't done that and then made out with Hayden, it made me go, oh, but that's kind of cheating though. Like, I don't really endorse that. So there is a bit going on with their characters. I do like that Hayden is not grumpy per se, but he's more reserved, and then she's really bringing out the discussion and not the humor, but the willingness to connect in him. So I'm liking that element. But of course, neither of them want to get into a relationship with each other when they're actually each other's direct competition for each other's dream job. So you've got that to play with as well. So I'm interested to see where this story progresses, and I'm a third of the way into it so far. So I'll probably finish that in the very first week of May. And of course, because I'm talking about my current audiobook, that means I finished Sunrise on the Reaping, which I gave 3 stars, which steadily declined as a rating, but 3 stars is still like pretty okay for me. And I talked about that in my April wrap up, so I'll link that down below. And then I ended up reading some manga yesterday, and that is the first volume of Ragnar Crimson. And can I say that this was a 4 stars, and I'm so happy that I found my vibe with this book, because it follows Ragnar like I thought. And the mentor that I thought he had was actually a child prodigy, so he's older than her. So she's 12, she's a child dragon hunter prodigy. She is leagues ahead of him in her ability to fight dragons, and he's very weak. And then something happens, it's like a pinnacle of an interaction, and there is a melding of time almost, and he's granted some form of power, but that comes with a cursed situation. So I'm not going to say anything further than that, only to say that Ragnar now wants to wipe out all of dragonkind, whereas before his only objective was to stay with Leonica, this mentor, and then protect her. So his aspirations have really grown beyond that, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing where the rest of this series goes. I've borrowed the next 2 volumes from the library, and if I still like the characters and what it's setting up, which I'm assuming that I will given how much I liked the setup of this volume, then I'm going to continue with the rest of the volumes when they're available from the library. Reading from the library is so good, because as much as I want to buy books, buying manga is so expensive, so this is such a good avenue for that. But that is it for this reading vlog. I gave Robin Hobb 5 stars, I finished Sunrise on the Reaping, I'm starting a new manga series, I'm reading an audiobook right now. I think things are looking up, and I'm hoping that my May TBR is where it's at, because I'm really excited about it. The first binding I'll leave kind of out in the cold for now. It can warm up later on when I get through more pages, but overall I'm happy with my reading. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've read any of these books, or if you want to, please let me know down below in the comments section, but otherwise like, comment, subscribe. I'll chat to you down below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.